Welcome back for another episode of Anthony Meets. Now, the next guest, you have actually met her before, but it was through a written article, I believe. It wasn't a video article. And I have actually really wanted to have her live with me for a very long time. And do you know what? Do you know what it took? It took a bit of God to get her here. It took a miracle. She is definitely controversial. Some of the, shall I say, is major the right way to say it? Conservative news channels are chattering a little bit about her as she has released her holy book. Is it Jeza's Bible, Jeza's Juice? She is none other than the Queen of New York, Miss Jeza Belle. Hello, good evening, and welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking great forward to this.
I love that you haven't went to any effort in your outfit at all, just casual.
Yeah, I went there casual today. I figured, the people across the pond, they don't really care what we look like, so here you go. Rolled out of bed.
I just nearly fell and everything. That's how good it is. I'm going to hit you straight away, and it's actually right at the opening of the book, but I think it begins our conversation quite appropriately. And I'm going to give you the Hebrew quote, and then we can discuss it. For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing and soul and spirit, joints and marrow. It judges the thoughts and the attitudes of the heart. Tell me about that.
You went right with a deep one, didn't you?
Right in there. I like to go deep.
Well, actually, when I started writing the book, I planned on the last chapter being about Scripture. I was going to attack Scripture, so to speak, or look at it through every chapter, but I thought I'd do a special chapter about the Word itself at the end of the book. Then as I started going through it, I thought, this really has to be at the beginning, because everything kind of lives and dies by this Word. All the fighting that we do, the attention that's drawn to these controversial issues, and really just finding, for me, the meaning of life itself is grounded in these words, because what else that has ever existed or could ever exist can divide between soul and spirit? I mean, you can't get any heavier or wilder than that concept. So I went right there, right from the beginning.
Girl, I mean, I read it, I just went, okay. Buckle in. Here we go. I grew up in the Catholic faith, and I'm an Irish boy. So religion has been up front and centre for all of my days. And one of the things that really bothers me, if I'm honest, is when we see this sort of the gay Christian debate, and we see the gays bashing the Christians and the Christians bashing the gays. I can't actually hold one to any greater weight whenever that's happening, whenever the bashing is happening. And something that I seen here in Northern Ireland, which was a country torn apart violently by religion for many, many years. I helped to bring civil partnerships into the UK, and I really expected a lot of big backlash on that. But a lot of Christian people embraced me. And actually, we were having conversation with churches who, because of their higher echelons, couldn't get involved, but wanted me to know. They didn't disapprove, that they had love. And without everything that's happening with drag queen story time and all the different things that are happening at the moment, where the drag queens are getting a lot of harsh bashing, are you finding anybody's reaching out to you, or?
Sure. I have a mixed bag of reaction, but let me go to the first part of what you said.
Sure.
If you look at my book, I think what's different about it, to your point, is that I'm not really attacking people. What I'm doing is standing up to politicize bullying that has taken place with a lot of evangelical movements. I call them all evangelicals, even though traditionally that just means a thin slice of Protestantism. I'm talking about everybody, the whole shebang, and I even say this in the book. So starting with that, but I have people on every side of the aisle that have reached out to me and told me how much this has already meant to them, even though it's only been out for a short period of time. Of course, not everybody's happy with it on either side of the aisle, because you really get a mixed bag on both sides. Some people in your own community can't really understand how you could still have a connection to a faith that they feel has demonized them for so long. And that's really the point of my book, is that it's not Christianity that has demonized them, but it's human beings. And we need to get off of looking at human beings and get back to looking straight to God.
Absolutely love that. And that, you actually just summed up there actually how I feel, So, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm licking the altar rails. I'm not. I don't go to mass as often as I should. It's Christmas, it's weddings, it's funerals, whatever. But I still do have my friendship, if you like, with the man upstairs. And I don't speak to him in bended knee, and I don't speak to him in knees and nows. If I've had a good day, I thank him. If I've had a bad day, I let him know I'm not impressed. And then every now and again, I'll ask him to help me work some shit out because I need to work something out. And I kind of feel like, irrespective of it, it's not a voice or whatever, but quite often it's just a feeling, but I get my answers. So I'm very happy having that relationship, and I don't want to be told I'm not allowed to have that relationship. And I certainly wouldn't let anybody tell me I wouldn't be allowed to have that relationship. But you did say something there which I think is quite interesting, is that there are a lot of people understandably scarred by religion. I mean, I know a chap who was subject to the Bible Cure Club, whatever it's called. What do you call that? Do you know where they take you away? I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know, try to do it because I actually went
that thing where they try to cure you of your gayness. So I understand a lot of people have been terribly damaged. But the thing that you said there is Christianity doesn't damage anybody. It's the people, it's the operatives. And I wonder if you were able to speak directly to those people. And I don't mean it in an argumentative sort of way. How or what would you like to say to them to bring them around to your way of thinking?
Are you talking about people who are against the community being part of
the unpleasants who are hiding behind the word, but not actually delivering the message?
Yeah, because if you go to the book toward the end, I actually get into, in the United States, there is a very politicized movement of Christianity. And I talk about the fact that even the people who we find the most loathsome, to me, I don't hold any animosity in my heart, honestly, towards any of these people. And I'd sit down, even though you probably see me like rant and rave about politics often on my page, in my heart of hearts, I don't hold anything against anybody. I sit down and break that bread with any person. As long as you start from a place of love, because that's really where Jesus was from. If Jesus forgave everything that we do, how can I not forgive somebody for having a bad opinion or getting something wrong that they were taught themselves, or maybe they interpreted themselves? I'm not going to hold that against them. I'll always offer an open hand out of love, because that's what I'm driven to do, because that's what was done to me, for me.
Love it. And isn't that actually just what Christianity is? I don't want to say he went on his tours, but that's what I would call it nowadays. If he was knocking about now, he went on his tours looking for people who needed love. He didn't search out people who were already filled with love and loving life. He actually found those and went purposely looking for those who needed to have him stand beside them, right?
Yeah. And right now I'm just thinking I could eat your voice up. I just love that accent. Let's just point that out.
That's okay. You can say I've got to say, we spend our whole life trying to get rid of it, and then as soon as we leave the country, it's suddenly cool.
Yeah, exactly. You can't ever take the accent truly out of who you were born to be. And it's just like that with creation. You can't change who you were created to be, sort of like an accent in a sense. You really can't change it. You're born with it. You're born this way, so to speak. I think somebody might have sang about that once, but you really can't change it. That's who you are. It's inherent in your DNA. And why should we spend our lives fighting against that, hating ourselves, talking down to ourselves, allowing other people to look down at us? It starts with us first. We have to own ourselves, love ourselves, because the man upstairs, as you called him before, he loved us more. He made us, just like we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, clearly that's the touch of God there. Clearly.
Well, they have a phrase here, the higher the hair, the closer to Jesus. That's always been one that I like.
That's so true. So, I mean, what prompted the book? Why now? Why all of a sudden?
So I was lying in bed one night. I could not sleep, and I was praying, which I talk about all the time. I drive me crazy. I laugh. I've been since I was born, I can always remember having a close relationship with God and talking to Him constantly. So I was lying in bed, I couldn't sleep, and I said, God, please help me fall asleep. I have such a busy day tomorrow. And then I heard this question came to me that said, there's actually a song from a movie that's been out for a long time, just been remade, The Color Purple. And in the song, it says, I know, it's the best. It said, there's a line of a song, a couple lines. You can't sleep at night and you wonder why. Maybe God is trying to tell you something. And so I said, I'm feeling a little stressed. What are you trying to tell me? And then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm getting up there in age. If I were to drop dead tomorrow, what have I not done that really mattered to me? And then within minutes, I knew the name of this book and all the chapters that were going to be in it. And here I am.
I've got to name check the book. Jeza's Jesus Juice by Jeza Belle. I mean, I don't know. Yes. Speak so that you actually are on the camera. Hold the book up and tell us about it.
It is Jeza's Jesus Juice, a tongue twister. Jeza's Jesus Juice, a drag queen Christian devotional.
I love it. And there's a cocktail recipe in there as well, right?
There sure is. So my first book was about cocktails and drunk drag queens. And I followed that up with What Came Natural, which was a book about religion. Seemed appropriate right after a book about drunk drag queens.
Yeah, it's exactly what you want to read with a hangover, isn't it? Bring on the guilt!
Exactly. And so since my first book was so wild, and yes, I do like my cocktails, I thought, how could I write any book and not include a new cocktail recipe? And voila, here we are. And acknowledging that not everybody loves to drink alcohol, I've also made a non-alcoholic version for the book. And you can try that recipe as well.
Very kind of you. That's very Christian of you, actually. I've got to say, actually, I love your social media, and you're always talking about what you're going to be making, or what you're having to drink, or you're off to the coast or whatever. And then your memes are obviously hilarious as well. But I remember when we were chatting during the week, I was making like a really bad evening meal. I think what was I having? I can't remember. What was I having? I was having sweet chili pork in pita bread.
One interesting.
Yeah. No, great. I'm wondering, are we going to see more from you in the food and beverage way as well as opposed to the Christian book as well?
You're going to see a couple of things from me. I'm hoping in the future to do the Harlot's Guide, which was my first book, the Harlot's Guide to Classy Cocktails. I've always wanted to do the Harlot's Guide to Baking. Unfortunately, though, I am the worst baker. I cook phenomenally. It's a savory. When I go to bake, every time the whole kitchen winds up like a disaster. Something blows up. Eventually, though, I'm going to do a cookbook about actual food. However, I have just completed my first historical fiction novel, and so I'm hoping to have that out within the next year. And it is an LGBTQIA+ focused book with lead characters from the 1930s in World War II Berlin.
Totally, I'm reading that as well, by the way, so make sure I get the manuscript. But so usually when I do these interviews, I start at the beginning, and then this is where we end up. But kind of like your book, I went kind of arse about face, and I went the bit that should be at the end. Actually, that's where we're opening. But take me back into the very, very young days of Jeza Belle. So before she's discovered Jeza Belle, before she's on the gay scene, before all of that stuff, where were you as a child growing up? What was life? Tell me about that.
So I grew up a very rare Jewish Christian, with very, very few of us.
Right.
So it's basically me and the 12 apostles. We're it. So I grew up a cultural Jew in New York, but we also went to an evangelical church. And then I wound up going to a very conservative university where I actually studied to be a minister. But at some point, I thought to myself, there is no way I can be a minister in the current atmosphere and conditions. This is long before where we are at today, where people are inclined to be whoever they are. We lived a lot more in the shadows. So I wound up doing something different, and for a number of years. And then one day, I wrote a little web series called Jeza and the Belle, about three drag queen sisters who saved the universe, saved the world, right? And I thought, I'm going to become, well, I didn't plan to become Jezebel, to tell you the truth. I was writing it for somebody else. But nobody I found to play this part the way I wanted it. So that's how I became Jezebel, because Jezebel in the Bible is one of the most evil people. She's this evil woman. Yet God has a history throughout the Bible, throughout history itself, of taking the lowest and the considered the most trashiest and using those as his vessel. And so when I wrote the web series, that's what I wanted to show. Drag queens saving the world because we are so lowly considered by so many, and yet what a tool and an instrument of power we could be. And that's where Jezebel was born.
I absolutely love it. And it's got a touch of the divine-esque about it, actually. Were you inspired by divine?
Absolutely. I am in all things. Inherent in my deepest core of being, this is really who I am. You know, God flows through and in all I do, which is very funny. A lot of people would probably laugh because I am drawn to, and if you see anything and you perform anything, I'm drawn to trashy and bawdy humor. That's really my thing. Very lowbrow, not sophisticated. That's what I'm drawn to. But I happen to personally think that God is a lot more humorous than we give him credit for. So I'm drawn to bawdy humor, but God flows through every aspect of my being, including my drag.
Yeah, I think I remember actually seeing one of the signs at one of the prides was, if God was anti-gay, why did he make it so fucking fabulous, darling? And I just thought, well, yeah, there you go. God made this. So coming out of the closet then, was it a big deal, or were your family kind of not at all surprised? How did it go?
I had an older brother who had come out first. He did not have a good go of it. Not at all. I talk about that a little in the book as well. But it did give me inspiration and provide some cover for my own time when I came out. And in my parents' later years, they were like, oh my God, you probably really did not handle that well with your brother. We'll try to be a little bit more understanding this time around. But it took many years to get to that position. It's still a struggle for a lot of people with their families. And some families will never accept them. That's why, at least here in the United States, I can say, and you can fill me in, it might be the same in the United Kingdom, that many, if not the largest population of homeless youth, and homeless overall, but most especially youth, are LGBTQ kids who are thrown out of their homes or leave because they face such violent homesteading that they have to flee to the streets for their safety. So, you know, anytime somebody embraces you, you should really count yourself quite fortunate, because we're still getting killed all over the world for who we are.
That's so true, you know, and people forget that actually, you know, they look at pride and things like that and think, well, what do you need a party day for? They don't realize that actually that's a protest, actually, is what it is. We just do it in a nice way so it's not offensive, and we try not to hurt people's feelings with it. But it is actually a protest, and it's a protest because we are still not normal. And I actually had this conversation recently with equal marriage coming in. And the CEO of this publication was my on-air TV husband, totally platonic. But I remember us sitting in a room kind of the day before Civil Partnerships. We were organising the first ones in London, whatnot, and thinking, do you remember when you accepted that you were gay? Getting married, having kids was off the list. You had to be in it. You weren't doing it. And here we are doing civil partnership. And then I remember us talking about equal marriage and just thinking it being so far away, so far into the future. But here it is, it has landed, right? And I think everybody's pretty cool generally about it. But I still wouldn't feel safe holding a partner's hand in a restaurant in most places.
Of course, we've come a long way. We are very far from equality. That's just the truth. And let's not forget that while we might enjoy some privilege in our country, most of the world, you can't even say that you're homosexual or any of the other rainbow things in our community, the rainbow identification. You'll be killed.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that just the truth? Gosh, my goodness. So we're just post-Christmas. We're hurtling towards spring and then summer. What's the plans, Miss Jeza Belle?
So my plans so far include I'm going to be doing a number of book fairs. Looking forward to that, some book signings. And at the very beginning of May, I'm coming to Manchester. And so I'm hoping to be performing there, working on that right now. Hopefully sign a few books there as well.
You're right beside where I live, so we're definitely getting trolleyed.
Yes, let's do it. I'm all for that. I'll never say no to a drink.
We're definitely doing that. Please do keep me posted on that for sure.
I will.
Okay. Well, like, gorgeous to see you, and thank you so much for coming and talking to me. Where can everybody find the book? How can they get it? Social media, websites, downloads? Tell us all.
Great. So Jeza's Jesus Juice, a drag queen Christian devotional, is available literally everywhere around the world. You can find it on any Amazon. If there's an Amazon in your country, it's available there, or direct from the publisher that ships all over the entire planet, as far as I know, except for maybe like 2 or 3 who are just never going to take my book. You can go to www.jezasjesusjuice.com. You can follow me at I am Jeza Belle at Instagram. I am Jeza Belle on Instagram. You could email me there too if you really want to. Or you can find me at www.iamjezebel.com as well. So there's a lot of places to find me and find my book, and you can literally buy it absolutely anywhere. And I do want to note, the book is designed so that you can read the chapters that are most salient or most interesting to you, that really affect you and your faith. You don't have to read the whole thing if you don't want to. You can hop around. You can read it on your own. You can read it in a study group. It starts with a scripture, as you said at the beginning. Then I share some personal stories, sometimes funny, sometimes a little bit more serious. Then I provide a prayer based on the topic of that chapter. And I do that because I want to give people an entry point if they can't find the words for themselves, especially for people who had a long pause in having conversations with God. Like, how do I do this? In fact, somebody just called me a day or two ago and said, I haven't spoken to God in 20 years. But then because of this book, I realized I've been mad at the wrong thing. I'm going to start talking to God again. These prayers really are helpful to me. And finally, there are some questions for reflection to help you kind of think about, where do I go next on this journey? And just wanted to give you that little bit of background. And I want to thank you so much for having me today. This really means the world to me.
Means more to me than you know, honestly. I did try to get you on screen the last time. I can't remember, but I think our schedules were clashing, and I was like, but I'm super grateful that you joined us, and I hope it's not the last time you join us. Please keep me posted on everything, and I will definitely be getting you arrested in Manchester.
Looking forward to that.
And then in the meantime, we can just watch you. We can watch you reading the news on Fox News or such like. In the meantime, then
Yes, you can watch me because right now I'm literally on every conservative news site. They're all talking about me. So feel free to read about me there.
I love it. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Take the very best of care. Happy New Year, gorgeous.
Same to you. Ta-ta.
Bye.